Hi everyone, welcome to today's class. Today's class is the last class in a series of free classes that we've been holding since Monday. And in today's class, I'm just going to introduce you to Python for data analytics. I remember telling you yesterday that it is not mandatory that you learn Python in order to be a data analyst, and that there are lots of data analysts who do not use Python. But then I also said that in most job postings, it is usually said that knowledge of Python is an added advantage. So, because it will give you an added advantage, especially when you start applying for jobs, so I thought to introduce it to you. So, just basically do something within 10 minutes so that you can see how you can use Python for data analytics. So, let me share my screen and show you. All right. Um, So the first day I introduced you to tech, the different tech rules and what you need to get started in them. And then the second day we spoke about data analytics, and then I showed you spreadsheets and SQL, which is a language for relational databases. And on the third day, I introduced you to visualization in data analytics, where we created a simple dashboard with Power BI. And then today is when I'm going to introduce you to Python and data analytics. So, for us to be able to view the table we used in on the spreadsheet on the second day, for us to be able to view that table that contained that data, we needed a spreadsheet tool. So, in order to see that table, we needed a spreadsheet tool like Excel or Google Sheets to view that table. In the same vein, for us to be able to work with database, we needed a database management system. So, either MySQL or PostgreSQL. That's the same way for you to write Python code. You need an IDE or an integrated development environment. So for you to write Python, you need somewhere to write the Python code, and you're going to use Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook is one of the most popular IDEs to write Python. So Python is a programming language. It is used to do anything, virtually anything. It's multi-purpose. So you can use Python for data analytics. You can use Python to build websites. You can use Python for data science. You can use it to build robots. You can use it for machine learning, artificial intelligence. Anything you can think of, you can use Python for. So it's a multi-purpose programming language, and it is the most popular programming language for data analytics. So I'm going to just briefly introduce you to how you can use Python for data analytics. You might not understand how I'm doing what I am doing, but as long as you understand the scope and the concept of what I'm doing, then you are good to go. We'll go into more details during the bootcamp. Now, remember I told you that data analytics basically revolves around three steps. You have to get your data firstly, then you have to clean the data before you proceed to analyzing and then visualizing it so that you can present it to your stakeholders. So the very first step is getting the data. Now there are some codes you can write in Python to get data. There are some codes you can write in Python to clean your data. There are some codes you can write in Python to visualize your data. I'm going to write maybe two or three of them today so you can see. Um, if you have questions along the way, please do not hesitate to call my attention. So there's something called libraries in Python. I don't want to go in deep into it, but there's some codes. Firstly, there's a library I need to use in Python. It's called pandas. So I'll first import the library and then alias it. This library will allow me gather the data I need to analyze. So there's the same data we used yesterday in our database. That's the same data I want to analyze. So firstly, I would first import the data, bring in the data, and the pandas library allows me to do that. So don't worry about the code I'm writing. You might not understand. But then the name of the data is, I think, KMS.csv. Okay, there's an error. I think it's uppercase KMS because Python is very case sensitive. Oh, let me see the error message. Okay, the encoding is wrong. So if you use Python, you would actually encounter a lot of error messages. So this is the data we want to work with. I've brought in the data to Jupyter Notebook. Now we can now clean, analyze, and visualize. It's the same data I worked with yesterday. We work in a company that records the day the order was made, the priority of the order, the quantity, the sales price, discount, ship mode, profits, and so on. So I've gotten the data. So basically, I've fulfilled the first step of the data analytics process, which is gathering the data. Remember, I told you that data can live in a variety of sources. Data could be on a website, it could be in an API. You can get it from an API, you can get it from a database, you can get it as a simple file. You might even need to conduct interview to get data or share questionnaires or basically observation, but data is everywhere. But the very first step is gathering. But luckily for me, this data was already in a spreadsheet file. So I just needed to import it here to use it. So I fulfilled the first step of gathering the data. Now the second step is cleaning. I need to look through the data and see anything that's wrong with the data and try to clean it. But I'm not going to go into that so that it takes a lot of time and it will complicate things. But the second step is to clean the data. I might just do some basic cleaning. For instance, what would I like to do? Maybe I'd like to make all the column names lowercase. Remember, Python is case sensitive. For instance, if I wanted to see only, let's say, the profit column, right? In Python, I'd have to do something like this, and it will show me only the profit column. But then if I lowercase p and run this, it will give me an error because there's nothing like profit. So Python is case sensitive. You have to put it in the correct case before you can do anything. So because I wrote it in lowercase p when I was searching for the profit column, that is why it gave me an error. Because Python is case sensitive, it is usually very stressful to actually have to remember each of the cases whenever I need to do something. For instance, if I wanted to see all the regions, I had to do something like this to get the region. But if I forgot that it was uppercase and I did lowercase, it will give me an error. So it's always stressful to remember the case of each column, especially when you're working with data. So what I like to do is before I analyze any data, I like to make all the column names lowercase. So for instance, row ID will all be lowercase, other dates, other priority, all of this will be lowercase. And because Python is a programming language, you don't have something you're going to just click and rename and things like that. You have to write code to do it. It's quite similar to what you have in SQL. In SQL, for you to do anything, you have to write code. In Python, you also have to write code. But Python makes it easier, I guess. So for instance, I want to clean this data now and I want to convert all the column names to lowercase. I could easily just write a Python code. Don't worry about the code, you don't understand. So there is a code in Python that's called string.lower. So this code lowers all the strings, all the alphabets there. So when I check my table, I can see that all my column names are now in lowercase just because of this line of code I wrote. So I just told it for the columns, lower the cases. This is just the Python code that you need to know in order to reduce cases to lowercase or uppercase. So I just cleaned the data and I just got all of this in lowercase. Another thing I would like to do is, I hope you're following. If you have any questions, please ask. Another thing I would like to do is maybe see a list of all the columns. So I can write a Python code to show me a list of all the columns. And I can see that there are about 21 columns there: row ID, other date, other priority, other quantity. So there are some columns I would like to delete. Maybe I don't need them for my analysis. Let's see what columns I would like to delete. I think province and region seem to be like a repetition. So let's say I want to delete region. Remember, it's not Excel. Excel, you could have just right click and then select delete and it will delete. Is a programming language quite similar to SQL, even though some people do not consider SQL a programming language. But to delete region in SQL, you knew you would have to write code. The same way in Python, to delete this column, you definitely have to write code. You can do something like this. Don't worry about the code. Um, I'm supposed to put this in quotes. See, it gives a lot of errors actually. So if I check this again, I can see that the region will no longer be there. So it's just province, no region anymore. What else would I like to delete? Let's say I want to delete maybe the product subcategory. Maybe I don't need a colon. So I'll say product category. And I believe this should delete it. So if I come back to check my data, I would say that there is no product subcategory again, only product category. So these are just basic cleaning that I'm trying to show you that you can do with Python. I'm not asking you to memorize the code or understand how I'm doing it. I'm just letting you know that Python like does everything. Python can be used to gather your data, it can be used to clean your data, it can be used to analyze your data, it can be used to visualize your data. So I can use it to delete columns, delete rows, rename column, rename rows, make everything lowercase, delete some values, edit values, just similarly to how I'll do it in SQL. Just the same way you write code in SQL, it's the same way you write code here. I can also use it to analyze my data. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to see the order priority, how many order priority I have, or let me see if there is a better column. Let's see. Okay, let's use order priority. We'll do something like order priority. So I'm just basically analyzing this data, and I can see that most of the orders were high orders. 1,768 of the orders had high priority, then 1,720 had low, then 1,006 were not specified, 1,006 were medium, 1,006 were critical. So basically, you can just easily analyze your data using Python code. You can also visualize your data. Sorry. So let me import some libraries that would use for our visualization. So for instance, let's say I wanted to see this analysis I just did, the different order priority. Let's say I wanted to see it in form of a visual instead of just figures. I could actually visualize it and say order priority. And I can see a simple bar chart that shows me that the high priority is the most orders fall under the high priority, then maybe low, then not specified, medium, and critical. Just easily like that. So say for instance, I want to answer another business question like the one we answered yesterday. So for instance, maybe I want to see um let's say the sales figure per province, right? So let's say we want to see the sales figure per province, just like we did yesterday. Can also use the chart to do that. And I can see data. This should be province. And then the y-axis should be sales. Let's see. So, well, the province names are overlapping. Let me try to reverse that. Let me put the province on the y-axis and then the sales on the x-axis. And now I can see that most of my sales came from New Brunswick, Northwest Territories, Prince Edward Island. And as you can see, basically like that. So you can visualize it however you want. In fact, you can even decide to maybe add the data labels at the top, just the same way we did in Power BI. So let me try to add the data labels. Don't worry about this code, you will learn all of them. It seems like it might be complicated, but in fact, you don't even have to memorize them. You can just have a way of getting it on the internet, and that will make it easier for you. So you can easily just tell, which region is doing well and which one is not doing well, just the same way you would have done in Power BI. But instead of Power BI, you going here, clicking this, clicking edit, clicking that, you can just write your line of code to do that. So let me maybe create one more chart to just emphasize the point. So say for instance, we want to see sales by year. Maybe I want to see which year I made the most sales or which year I made the least sales. But there is a date column, but there is no year column here. but there's year in the date column. So I can probably decide to extract the year from the date column just using a line of code. So I can say I can create a new column called year. So also put this in quotes. So I can create a new column called year, and then I can extract the year from that date column. Or that date. Okay, and then if I now check my table, I can see that I have a new column called year that has extracted the year from this other date. So for instance, this one was made on the 13th of October 2010. So it extracted the 2010. This was on the 1st of October 2012. It extracted the 2012. So now that I have the year column, I can now decide to make a line chart to show me sales by year. So I can see my data, and then my x-axis should be the year, and my y-axis should be the sales figure. There's a mistake somewhere. Okay, my year is capital letter Y. I wonder why I made that capital letter. So judging from this, I can tell that in 2009, I made like the highest sale, about $1,950. In 2010, the lowest. I don't know what happened in the year 2010. In 2011, it kept going up. Then in 2012, it went up. So there are lots of different charts and visualization you can do with Python. You can gather data with Python, you can clean data with Python, you can analyze data with Python, you can visualize data with Python. In fact, every other thing that every other tool can do, you can do every single thing on Python. And Python gives you the flexibility to, do tweak your analysis however you want. It makes it faster. You can have 10 million rows of data with Python, and then it still goes very fast compared to a spreadsheet. So this is an advantage of learning Python. It is not mandatory, like I said, to learn Python to be a data analyst, because it seems like the code might be overwhelming. As you can see, all of this code, you might be thinking, oh, how will I memorize all of these codes? But the truth is, you don't really have to memorize it as long as you know how to get the resource on the internet. But the codes you write over and over again, it sticks with you. So basically, this is how you can use Python for data analysis. You can even use Python to present your findings. You can put it in form of a PowerPoint slide or even a slide from your Python. In fact, you can even use Python to write SQL to query your databases. It is multi-purpose. It can do anything. That's why I thought to introduce it to you. So what do you think? Do you think it's learnable? Do you think it's something you might want to also learn, or you're fine with just Excel, Power BI, and SQL? Let me hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's learnable.
Okay, that's the energy I want. Anyways, so this is just a brief introduction to what is expected for the bootcamp coming up. In the bootcamp, we'll treat everything from scratch. Personally, Python is my favorite tool. Personally, it's what I use the most. It's what I feel I use better than any other tool because it makes the job easier for me. But there are times when you might need to use other tools, where you don't want to use Python also. And I feel like if you learn Python, it lays the foundation, especially if you want to transition into data science or data engineering or machine learning or artificial intelligence, because Python is the tool that is used for all of those. So yeah, in the bootcamp, we'll start from scratch when we're treating Python. In fact, from the very beginning, because you have to learn about variables, how to install Anaconda, Jupyter Notebook, variables and data type. You learn about data structures like list, set, tuples, and dictionaries before we now go into libraries where you learn about pandas to clean data and NumPy to perform mathematical calculations with data. Then finally, we'll go to data frames, which is the same with tables in SQL. Then you see how to clean and manipulate data with pandas. Then you also learn how to create visualization with Python. These visualizations are static, but you can learn how to create visualizations that you can interact with, interactive visualizations that show you tooltips that you can click on, just like it is in Power BI. You can also create it in Python. So we're going to cover all of these things in details in the fourth module. So can you create? Definitely, there are libraries you use to create dashboards in Python. Yes, you can create dashboards in Python, but it's a little bit advanced. I think, let me see if that is part of the advanced data analytics class. Let me see. Yeah, so I think is the interactive visualization, plotly and dash to build interactive web-based visual. So we'll create dashboards in the advanced class, but that one's a little bit advanced. You don't need to worry about that yet. So yeah, please, for someone who is an accounting student, I want to go into financial analysis. Which tool is best to master? Excel. Excel is your best bet. I think financial analysts use Excel the most. So yeah. So this is the end of the 3 classes, right? From Monday, the data analytics bootcamp is starting, and like I've been iterating over and over again, it's going to run for 5 weeks, Mondays to Fridays, 8 to 10 p.m. West African time, Mondays to Fridays every day for 5 weeks, because it's very intense. There's a community, and we're going to cover in details Excel, SQL, Power BI, Python, and we'll work on 5 projects. There is also a virtual internship, and then we'll create a portfolio website, put the projects we've worked on the website, then we'll learn how to optimize our CVs and LinkedIn, and then we'll start applying for jobs. And a couple of people have gotten jobs, during the bootcamps, even after the bootcamp. So it's the beginner data analysis bootcamp is enough to get you an entry-level job. Then when you get the job, you can keep learning, right? Because learning is perpetual, especially when it comes to tech. And then you can even decide to take the advanced data analytics bootcamp later if you want to do that. But yeah, this is all there is to it. I mean, there are some data analysts that all they work with is Excel. So it's largely dependent on the company you're working for. Sometimes all of these things might just be extra that you don't need. You might just have to do everything you need in Excel. Sometimes you might work in big companies that require you to use Power BI or even Python. But yeah, there's no loss in learning anything. No knowledge is wasted. Are we doing both? No, there are 2 different boot camps. There are 2 different boot camps. I would advise you register for only the beginner if you're starting out. Then later on after that, you can register for the advanced. But there are a couple of people who registered for both of them at once who would like to take both of them. I don't know how to go about that, but yeah. Are there no scholarships at DataFric? I mean, we shared some coupon codes like last week and last 2 weeks, 20% off, and some people took advantage of it. So yeah. Also, there is like a referral bonus going on. If you refer 1 person, you get 25% off. Refer 2 people, get 50%. Refer 3 people, and then you attend the bootcamp for free. So yeah, but if there are any questions, you can reach out to me on Twitter for that, and then I'll reach out to DataFric handle, and they would put you through on how to go about it. So yeah, I hope to see you guys in class on Monday. I would keep this recording, and then I would join it with the previous classes and upload everything at once, so that anyone that didn't miss any of the classes can just watch everything through and know where they stand and if they want to proceed with the journey. So if there are any questions, please, now is the time to ask before I end the call. Any questions, please?
Please, the timing, so 8 to 10 p.m., right?
Yes. All right, guys. If there are no questions, then I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a lovely
All right,
weekend.
thank you so much for your time.
Sorry?
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for attending. Bye.
All right.